I hope in a few years, Siobhan, I will invite you to interview Pharrell when she goes to her Olympics.
Absolutely. I'll be there. I'll be there cheering you on.
So having their support and then kind of encourage.
They find out that, oh, it's all yards.
I think sport communities need to work on getting a lot closer outside of sporting events. I don't think there's enough group swimming activities that don't revolve around training.
Don't let anything hold you back. Don't let anyone hold you back. Go out.
Looking at it as an obstacle today, right? But there's so much more positive you could find out of this. Bad is all about perspective.
Swimming for me has given me so much, and my life would not be what it is today if it wasn't for swimming, and if it wasn't for the opportunities that I received when I was in Trinidad.
I hear you turn into the competition soon.
It's a pleasure for me, and I told you just now, thanks for the interview. You know, we could still get some ideas how we could run swimming. Everything has not went down with the yellow submarine. We could save it. All right, we could save it.
So you have hope.
Yeah, I have hope. I have hope.
You could take Nikolai Blackman in a race now.
Not a chance in the world, but I wouldn't let him hear that.
So when you have me on the show, I let you get the Trinbago breaststroke.
No, thank you. This is a great. This is such a great initiative. I wish I had this when I was actually swimming.
Coaches, you all can open up about your own experiences, because all of us has been through this COVID-19 pandemic.
Hey parents, life in sport for your son or daughter as an athlete is bound to have some challenges as well as setbacks.
Adversity doesn't exist to bug you down, but rather it's to teach you a lesson.
When you wake up in the morning, start thinking positive thoughts. Replace those negative thoughts and those negative emotions with positive affirmations about yourself. Letting yourself be reminded that you're going to have a great day. You are worth it. You love yourself.
Taking that on. They be like, I will do it for free.
So I'm from Tobago, guys. I'm currently based in Florida. Hopefully when COVID is over and the borders are reopened, I'll be back home so we could start something. And my IG handle is AziJo7. So be sure to follow me because I post videos every day, my workout videos. So let's go.
But learn your customer, tailor your program to suit them. Do not have the mindset that I can do this and wherever I say you have to go it. It's a teaching process. Be very gentle and patient with them. My goal as a coach was always to see swimming develop in Trinidad and Tobago. Right? It was never to see that, hey, you know what, Rocky, I don't care personally for the accolades and who looks at me as a good coach.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Chlorine Callaloo. I know you're probably thinking, what? Callaloo so early? No, I'm not. I'm not here to cook tonight. I am just here to warm Holly up a little bit, you know. So welcome to Chlorine Callaloo, and this is our 20th episode. Yes. So we want to thank those who've been with us from episode 1. We want to welcome those who are joining us for the very first time. And so we want to ask you, as you come in, share the live and invite everyone to be a part of this, because we have a packed show for you tonight. As we start winding down, season 1 is coming to an end. So I just want to quickly let you all know to get very excited for goggles and giggles, or giggles and goggles. Either way, there'll be giggles and it's all for goggles. So I want to again remind you, if you are looking on, if you know someone, if you yourself want to be a part of our program on that day, please reach out to us. We need people with talent. We're trying to raise funds for those who've been, you know, out of work and who have not been able to make any money, no income since the lockdown and the pandemic. So thank you for joining us. I am your sous chef, Cindy Ann, and of course, SUE, because if I cook for you, there will be a lawsuit. So thank you for tuning in and stay tuned. We have a packed show tonight, and I'm going to now turn you over to Coach's Conscience. That was good.
Gal walk, gal walk. Yeah, gal walk, gal walk, gal walk. Never see a gal walk. Gal walk, gal walk.
So welcome back to another episode of Dryland Dimensions with me, Azzy Joe. And today we're going to be going through the different progressions of a push-up. So, let's go. So now that we have our push-up progressions, 3 tips to remember. 1, keep your elbows at 45 degrees. 2, brace your core at all times. 3, push your hands into the floor. So see you all tomorrow, please God, with Larry Go with Azzy Joe. Remember, we are live at 6 p.m. for our weekly workout. And stay tuned for next week's episode where we have Shane Cooper of Altus Performance and Gregory Seal of Movement Mechanics, where we'll have an open discussion with these 2 experts in strength and conditioning. So until then, of movement mechanics, where we'll have an open discussion.
Gal walk, gal walk. Yeah, gal walk, gal walk, gal walk. Let me see a gal walk. Gal walk, gal walk.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Bufong and Talia and Bard Bufong from Shatusa Coaching and Consulting, and today we wanted to commemorate World Mental Health Day, and we just wanted to remind you that mental illness and individuals that have mental problems, this is not a taboo topic, and we are here to help you with a positive mindset, and with love and support it can make a difference.
Do not be ashamed to share your experiences with mental health, such as depression or anxiety, etc. It may inspire others.
If you find yourself that you're fighting with your own mind, feel free to reach out for help. Keeping it in is not going to solve the problem. You need to speak out.
If you want to overcome your mental problems, do not hide them. Open up and seek help. We are here for you.
And always remember to make sure that you love yourself. Making self-love and self-care priority goes a long way ensuring that your mental hygiene is always on point.
Do you know that a person with mental health problems need that love and support the same way that a person with physical disorder need your support?
Yes, and always remember that we are on this journey together. We're all here to help each other.
We are here for you.
And we are here for you as well.
We are.
Welcome back. I know I'm still here, right? So I guess this will have to be part of the bloopers. I said coach's conscience, but it was dryland dimensions and mental massage. So I also want to apologize for, we were supposed to have a guest here with us tonight to discuss breast cancer. You see, I'm in my pink. We're all in pink because this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We had a last minute cancellation, and so that, next week, join us though. We'll have someone then, and we will hopefully delve into it, discuss, the whole breast cancer and why it's important to get checked out, both men and women. Yes. So now for real, I am going to get off of the screen and introduce the next segment, Coach's Conscience. Good night. Oh my God.
I'm confused.
Right.
Hey, Joey.
What's going on, Rocky?
Hi there. Good evening, everyone.
Hold on, let me fix that, boy.
Hello?
Good evening, everyone, as well. Yeah.
You hear me properly, Joey?
You hearing me?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, cool. Yeah.
Nice. So, welcome.
That's a little noise in the road there.
Yeah. Have a rally by you. Right, so a lot of persons here will know Joey, know of you, and know you. Some will know you as a swimmer, some will know you as a coach, some may even know you as being a part of ASAT. All right. I know you. You were my superior actually when I went to Goodwill in 2014. Right, you were the head coach. You were also my superior. You were also my superior. Huh?
I just saying that was my first national team too as well, as a coach.
Yeah. And you were also my superior in Carifta 2005, where you were the captain. Right? You're somebody who I've looked up to growing up. I would watch you in a couple of ages beyond me. And you were a regional medalist in Carifta, CCCAN, CISC. Right? You've been swimming since the year 2000. Right?
Competitively.
competitively. I know you still swim. I still see you swimming. I mean, you're doing masters. I know you're expert skipper too.
yeah. I was trying my thing.
Right. So I just introducing it to the persons. But what we really want to discuss is you as a coach and your involvement in ASAT, because you were PRO with ASAT from October 2003 for exactly 1 year, and you resigned in 2004. Right? I mean,
2013, 2014.
Oh, 2013 to 2014.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. 2004, you'll be really young then still.
Yeah, that's curve studies.
Yeah, so you now, I mean, the only part you really play in swimming now is some beautiful drone shots, right? So I just want to find out, I mean, about Joey. You took a step out of the swimming arena in administrative capacities and as a coach, right? So I just want to find out, I mean, I think finding persons who, as you seem passionate about it, but they had to have a reason that stopped you. So, care to tell us a little more about it?
Yeah, well, that's no problem. Well, as you said, I've been involved in swimming for quite some time. Linky is actually the guy who taught me how to swim. From then, I've been swimming for a little while. I actually started my first competitive stint at the La Hocketa Community Pool.
Okay.
Then switched over to Center Excellence and then got through the whole thing. Went on to UTT to swim, and then after that, coming out of that, I said, out of all the experiences and all the growth and all the things I saw, I found that that isn't something I should keep for myself. That's something I should give to others. That's something I could share, because I learned so much from swimming. So that was our main selling point about me being a coach. I was actually very proud and very happy to call myself a coach.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm still proud about what I did at the point in time. But you're asking about why I took a step back from it.
Yeah.
Now, I know Christopher Buffon used to swim with me, well, Dr. Buffon now, and they always talk about mental health, and mental health is very important. Now, coaching is a lot, as you know, because you're the coach, you're a mentor, you're a confidant, you're a nutritionist, you're all those things that like a choreographer, like what Strasser Sanka said some weeks ago.
Yeah.
You have to do all these things. You have to manage all these people, and then some people think it's just about producing people who can compete and win, but it's really about producing wholesome athletes, people who can contribute to society, both inside and outside of the pool. And I think any coach listening to me will hear that and think that is true. Regardless of the sport, you want to produce somebody who can contribute to society, both in the sport and outside of the sport. And that's a lot to do. And in Trinidad and Tobago, but coaching is not a full-time career. You can't really make a living off just coaching. So there's a bit of a monetary compensation where that is concerned. And most coaches I know, coaching is their second job, and they have a real job, that a 9 to 5 that pays the bills. So what was happening to me is I was getting worn down, because as you saw, I love swimming. I continued swimming. I started coaching. I saw some issues that I didn't like that was going on in the administration of ASAT, and you can't really change everything from outside. So I said, let me try and see if I could change it from inside.
Yeah.
And Jason and a few of you all will know some of the initiatives I took inside. They are proud of some of them. And coming out of that now, I said, well, that was a lot to deal with, because even while I was on ASAT and while I was coaching, I actually still took part in some competitions. I actually remember swimming Cross Harbor, coming straight out of the water in Cross Harbor, getting on the phone and doing an interview with Andrea Batista about the competition right there. Yeah, that was, so I realized I was doing a lot, and it's a lot to coach in the morning, work all day, coach in the evening. And then we all know there's a time when, say, believe it's October every year, where we have a lot of swim meets. So it's like you're going 7 days a week consistently. And eventually you get beat down. And then when you don't feel appreciated fully, like you'll feel appreciated, but it's a sort of balance. It needs a balance off with the amount of work you're putting in and how much things you're dealing with. So eventually I got a little worn down. So that's why I took a little step back from the ASAT executive. And then as coaching continued, I got a little worn down from there again. And I took a step back from coaching. But you know me from around the pool, I'm still jumping in the water, still swimming. So I can't leave the pool, no matter how hard I try.
Yeah, but we don't want you trying hard at all to leave. Right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're somebody who I've watched your rapport with the kids, whether it be in students or when we went to Goodwill. And I mean, I believe that's very important. You mentioned coaching being a holistic job where it's not just about who can give the best workout, but it's about, hey, you having a relationship with your swimmer, right? And you talk about it being demanding, right? Do you think it is demanding because that the appreciation is not fulfilling enough for the financial aspect? Do you think with those things meeting your, let's say, needs, right? Do you think it is something that you would have been willing to continue pursuing coaching or being an asset?
Well, in terms of finances, maybe I would have put up with it a little more, but at some point in time, I would have taken a step back and try to reorganize and get things a little more efficient, so to say. Because another factor is when you're fighting or you're attempting to do things differently, you're attempting to improve things, and you're attempting to change the status quo, and you get a little resistance. That too demotivates you.
Yeah, very much so.
And the worst thing you want to see is a demotivated coach coaching children. They will pick up on that. Yeah. Yeah. And that's something you try to avoid at all costs. So in terms of the compensation, it's not necessarily money. It's more fulfillment. Because I remember I stopped coaching. I took a step back. I said it was a lot. And then a parent called me and said, hey, one of my swimmers wants to give you a card. And she gave me a little card. And the card says, you are the best coach I ever had, and you will always be my #1 coach. What's very interesting is her mother told me of all her coaches, she had a ranking system on her wall in her room. And I was the only one ranked 10 out of 10. I wouldn't mention the other coaches or what they were ranked. But that in itself made me feel like I did something. Yeah. Like that in itself was something that I felt proud about. And after that experience, I said, if given the opportunity, I would start back coaching. But a head coach job is a lot on your plate, especially if you're working 2 jobs as well. And we kind of have a little saturation with pools right now, and we don't have enough pools in the country for enough clubs and all those things. And it'll be great to see the sport develop a lot more, both in facilities, in coaching, especially in administration and support of both coaches' development and swimmers' development. And all those things I would like to see, and all those things I was pushing for, and all those things I hope to see for those who come after me. At a point in time, you say, I wish it was more. It's a lot, and maybe I need to take a break or, support somebody who could push all the way through. That's why right now, anytime I see any coach or anybody around my age or came out from all little or batch, you could say, and they say they want to try something or they want to do something, I will be fully in support behind them and support them in any way possible. If I can't do it, I guess push somebody else to reach there.
Direction. Yeah. I mean, with swimming, I think we have a pool of coaches, young coaches now. And as they say, the coaches, we don't want to see bad done for swimmers. We're still learning our craft, right? And we are often doubted. We are often...
Very much so.
Yeah, let's say we are often overlooked. I remember that's why I stepped down from going up for teams, because it was always a kind of bacchanal. It's a who like who to this game, a who like who. And I mean, I thought it would be based on performances, right? Based on, hey, you know what, this is what I want for the future. Let's develop the younger coaches. But it wasn't about that. I mean, to see big experienced coaches, a full panel of experienced coaches going for Goodwill, I found it wasn't very forward thinking, right? And I think, I understand how you feel, right? Because it's not very easy to get up day in and day out and say, you know what, let me commit to something that, it's not rewarding to you, whether it is based on respect, but it's based on, you could have an input in it. Because I know on the asset you would have brought about your 2 cents, which might have been met with resistance and all those things, right? So, I mean, from what you're saying, it seems like you're willing to be there for swimming and you're still there for swimming, but you just want the circumstances to be a little different.
Definitely.
And, don't you?
So, you know, I tried something, and one thing I'd like to stress on is something I've noticed, not just in swimming, but most sports on the whole, where people don't understand the value of failure. Like you could try, you fail at it, you get up, you try again. It's only a real failure if you don't learn anything from it. I tried to do something, I realized, hey, I could have done it better this way. That doesn't mean I did a terrible job before. It just means there's something, hindsight is 20/20, there's something I could have done better. And you know, in reflecting a lot of those things, I realized that, yeah, there are some things I could have done better then. Some things I did the best of my ability at the time with the information I knew at the time. Yeah. But there are some things I can do now to move forward. And as you said, the little drama with development of coaching and going on national teams. I remember that first national team you were on there as a coach, and that first team I was on, and I was the head coach. I didn't feel like there was much support for us because we were the youngest coaching team that ever went out there. And I remember we had to have a meeting with the parents and said, this is the first time the coaching staff is full of swimmers, and we have more experience than all the other coaches that have come before us in terms of that, in terms of being swimmers. Now, that is not to bash the coaches who came before, because Trinidad as a country and swimming in Trinidad is not very old. That means at that point in time, you wouldn't have many swimmers who turn to coaching. You just start with, hey, I go and coach. And most of these people coach because their children were involved in swimming. But now you have a whole cadre of young people who came up through the ranks, and all of them could coach now, or they would like to coach now. You could teach us, you could show us. We'll have different ideas. I remember a lot of things they taught us, or how we were trained and how we were coached when we were 11, 12. Right now, they're saying you're not supposed to do things like that with swimmers. You'll damage their shoulders, you will burn them out. And we're hearing that over and over. And I know a lot of swimmers who stopped because they got injured. And now it's a bit shocking when you suggest to maybe a senior coach, maybe you should do this differently. I have a different idea. I mean, the information is out there. You can't say because you took 10 years to reach where you are, I'm supposed to take the same 10 years. Yeah. If you come first, you lead the way. If you take 10 years, I should take 8. The person next to me should take 6. It should be easier as it comes forward. And we're living in the age of information where there's so much information out there readily available at our fingertips, where we could train and we could teach ourselves, and we could become better as coaches. We could engage with other people, other coaches. I think it was the fire officer Janis was talking about coaching coaches. It's way back early in the thing, and that's something I think we need more. And I believe if I experienced a course of coaching, like I would have been a lot better off, or I might have been in a better position to handle a lot of the things that was going on. Because as I tell some of my friends, one of the hardest things you could do is to try and motivate a coach. Because we always motivating everybody. We know all the tricks, we know everything you have to say, we know all those things. It's kind of hard to motivate a coach when they kind of down and they feeling burnt out.
Agreed. Joey, well, we know we could go on with this for to be honest, right? But I mean, I thank you for your feedback, because I know we have other things to come. Some of the issues we discussed here, I will be bringing up with Mr. Wickham, all right? We strive for change. I mean, we all share the same concerns, coaches repeatedly, and I mean, there's only so much we can do, and it's time for a change. We know we could do better, so let's just do it.
Definitely.
All right, Joey, thanks so much. All right. Yeah. Jason, I think coming in, so.
You coming in?
I saw his screen. All right, moving on. Joey, thanks much.
Yeah, man. You all have a good one.
I hope in a few years, Siobhan, I will invite you to interview Pharrell when she goes to her Olympics.
Absolutely. I'll be there. I'll be there cheering you on.
So having their support and kind of encourage.
They find out that, oh, it's all yards.
I think that sport communities need to work on getting a lot closer outside of sporting events. I don't think there's enough group swimming activities that don't revolve around training.
Don't let anything hold you back. Don't let anyone hold you back. Go out.
Looking at it as an obstacle today, right? But there's so much more positive you could find out of this. Bad is all about perspective.
Swimming for me has given me so much, and my life would not be what it is today if it wasn't for swimming, and if it wasn't for the opportunities that I received when I was in Trinidad.
I hear you returning to the competition soon.
It's a pleasure for me, and I told you this now. Thanks for the interview. You know, we could still get some ideas how we could run swimming. Everything has not went down with the yellow submarine. We could save it. All right, we could save it.
So you have hope.
Yeah, I have hope. I have hope.
You could take Nikolai Blackman in a race now.
Not a chance in the world, but I wouldn't let him hear that.
When you have me on the show, you have to the Trinbago best show.
No, thank you. This is a great. This is such a great initiative. I wish I had this when I was actually swimming. Actually,
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening and welcome everyone. This is Freestyle. I have with me Cathy and Good evening, Cathy.
Good evening, Jason.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. So, Cathy and Buko is former national swimmer, and someone who has made life about swimming. She's the and proprietress of the Buko Aquatic Swim School. She was also a former competitive coach as well. I think I get most of your resume there. I'm sure there are things in.
Yes, Buko's Aquatic Swim School.
Right. So, Cathy, welcome and tell us, how did you get involved in swimming?
How did I get involved in swimming? Learned to swim. My parents insisted. Important skill that we need to know to do. So we were all put into learn to swim, depending on your ages and everything. And funny enough, Joey Kaufman was my first learn to swim coach. And last week you had John Stanley Little Page on the program. Got to the point where at 6 years old I had to decide. I guess I was showing some kind of potential. And I had to make a decision, dancing or swimming. And it was a no-brainer. So out went dancing, in went swimming. And that's when it all started. My first swim club was Sparta. Yeah, one of the best clubs. Sorry, it had to close down.
Cathy, well, two things. We're getting a little delay in the connection. We're getting a little echo on your side as well. I don't know if you have a speaker up. We're getting a feedback. Oops, well, we lost it totally. So this may have to be one of those interviews that I have to get the person back on the phone. But that is, we have Cathy Buko. She's a former national swimmer, regional medalist. She also runs the Buko Aquatic Swim School. And I'm trying to see if I can get her here, but not so far. Let me try something again. All right, Cathy.
You're back.
Hopefully, right. So, Cathy, what's your most memorable national swim team experience? No, this is okay. So we're gonna have to do this another way because the internet, our connection with Cathy seems to not be well. So Hi, Kathy. I'm going to have you on the phone here, and I'm going to try to run the interview with you on the phone instead, right? Because the connection seems to be bad. Can you all tell me if you all are hearing Kathy? All right, Kathy, say good night now.
Hi, good night, everybody.
Right. So I was asking you, what's your most memorable swim team experience?
I would have to say my first national swim team that I qualified for when I was 10 years old to go to CISE in 1978 in Santo Domingo. I was the baby of the team, and it was a huge highlight, The team was a big team. In terms of all the age groups, more or less filled with 4 representatives per age group and maybe a reserve.
Right.
And I just recall the camaraderie we had in those days. A national coach and an assistant national coach was selected, and the team was selected 4 to 6 weeks outside of the event, and we trained as a unit.
Right.
You know, so the camaraderie amongst everybody, getting to know the other swimmers who were not part of your club.
Right.
You know, it was a really, it really helped the camaraderie and the togetherness of everybody and the support of everybody. And then there was the fun aspect of when you're not swimming. I mean, we got really great results in the pool.
Right.
But I could still recall, you know, at that age of 10, it was my first experience, and the fun you would have in the cafeteria or in the dorms and who's rooming with who, and you know, all those things are just so memorable. It's something you don't forget, you know, and it was and then you're traveling, and in our days as well, we had national uniforms. You know, we had the girls who wore blazers with skirts and scarves, the guys who wore blazers, long pants. You know, you really felt as though you had achieved something.
Right.
And, you know, you felt proud you were wearing your red, white, and black colors and representing your country.
I've seen John Stanley beginning up here. Good to see you, Kathy Ann, one of my first competitive coaches who are locked to her. You say? Right.
Thanks, John Stanley.
Yeah. So, Kathy, if you were your coach, right, what would you have done differently with Kathy's swimming career?
To be quite honest, if it was the era I swam in, I would change nothing.
Okay.
You know, we didn't have the exposure and the ability to get out as much as we are getting out now. So for me, then I would have probably done the same thing. No, definitely I would ease up on the intensity in the younger age groups,
right.
You know, the 8 and unders, the 9 to 10s, even as far as 11 to 12s, and ensure, you know, that the kids that are swimming enjoy what they're doing. You know, that their techniques are being on point and being and ensuring that after 11 to 12, there's no need to fiddle with technique.
Right.
And then at 11 to 12, heading into 13 to 14, now, you know, you're maturing a little more. You set these goals, and your goals are now not just long course, short course, character, goodwill, but you're older, now you're aiming for the CACs, the Commonwealths, the Olympics. And you're now hungry to go, you know, you're now ready to get in there and kick. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that you burn out and everything, you do, you know, so to do that at early age, and then you look at continuity when you really want our swimmers to be going out to the CACs and the Commonwealth Games, that's what I would do different.
So is that part of the reason when you chose a career direction? I know you were a competitive coach, but you found your home really doing the developmental swimming and the learn to swim. Did that contribute to it, or what was the reason for you doing learn to swim as opposed to sticking with the competitive?
When I first started to coach competitive, I was coaching at Flying Fish Swim Club with Hayden Yualo and Paul Yualo. It was an experience I'll never forget. We were a great team. We had great successes. And, you know, I was very hungry for it still. The passion of coaching, I just love the passion of coaching. I love it. I just love it in all. It's not only in swimming.
Right.
I then, after our time as a team coaching unit came to an end, I moved over to Marlins and Paul Yualo as well. And it was still good. But then as time started to change, sorry to say, too much politics got involved, too much parental interference, and I found myself losing the zeal and the passion for coaching.
Right.
And at the same time, in one of my good friends had her first baby, and she was like, "You need to try to teach my child to swim. You can't swim so good. You need to teach him." And I tried it, and when I tried it, that was it. I fell in love with it from then, and I hung up my competitive swimming coaching, and I went into coaching hockey, field hockey with Shani Garrett with Magnolia's Hockey Club.
Right.
I did spend about 10 to 15 years with them, and I then focused on Buko's Aquatic Swim School, my swim school, where I was able to then expand. I moved from one kid to a few and I was at the shop Samaravan, and I was able to then add in other programs, So, yeah, that's how I got into it. Once I started teaching, there was no talk.
So you said Buko Aquatic Swim School. So how have you fared so far with this COVID-19 pandemic and the closure of different facilities?
No different to all of us. Not good. Affected in a huge way. I actually was at Shop Samaraval for 13 years, and I just recently had to give up my tenancy. So, like all of us, we just see how things develop, when pools will be reopened, when classes could resume to what they were. But there's a number of programs. I did learn to swim for babies and kids and adults. I did aqua fitness. I did hydrotherapy. I had some water polo teams coming in to train there at the facility. So it's like starting over. We're waiting to hear when the starting gun goes off, to now try and see how we could make our way back to where we were. So not good at all.
Not good at all. Why is it important as a learn to swim practitioner? Why is it important for people to learn how to swim?
Well, firstly, we live on an island. We are surrounded by water, and I think it's a necessity for every citizen to at least know how to swim. You don't have to move on to competitive swimming, but knowing the basics and survival swimming, I think is very, very important. And the times have changed. Now they have these in-text pools, that they are above ground pools, and many homes have them. Different sizes, shapes, depths. In our days when we were youngsters, whoever had a pool in the ground, dug out and everything, but we don't have that again. And so it's even more important that the parents understand the importance of getting their kids in the water to learn to swim at an early age.
Yeah. But what would you like to see in the development of this sport nationally? What would you like to see in the development of the sport of swimming?
Well, with the swim programs, I feel there are quite a few out there now, and if we could spread our wings and touch as many areas across the countries as we could, we are the foundation, because there's no competitive swimmer that drops out of the sky.
Correct.
So the first thing you have to do is learn to swim before you could become a competitive swimmer.
Right.
When you move on from learn to swim and you go into and you choose to go into the competitive arena, I think my personal feeling is that not enough emphasis is placed on techniques, starts, turns. Those are the important things. You will get the speed after, you will get the selection of what strokes you want to swim after, but we should be competent, and I think from what I'm seeing is the competitive programs, they lack a little bit of technique and starts and turns, and you can't be completely successful as a competitor swimmer if you can't start, or you can't turn, or your technique is not what it needs to be a successful competitive swimmer. So nationally, I would like to place a little more emphasis on the technique of the youngsters, so that when they get to the older age groups, it's just a matter now of planning how we move forward, how we then set our goals and achieve our goals, and you can bring on the workload then, so that's what I would really like to see.
You could see yourself getting back in coaching competitive swimming?
That is a tricky question. I have a sister that has 3 children. And she has always told me that the day any of them want to swim competitively, that I will have no choice but to get back into competitive swimming. So far, so good. I will not be rushing back, to be quite honest, Jason. I really won't be rushing back to competitive coaching. If one of them want to choose to do that, it will be in the early stages, and I will be involved, yes.
Right.
But definitely to pass them on to the senior coaches at that stage who are competitive. I mean, I'm already out of it for quite a few years, so it will just be to get them in, make sure their technique is sound and everything. And for anybody who knows me knows that I'm a stickler for technique, you know. And so, but generally speaking, no, I don't think I want to rush back into competitive coaching season.
You're not really rushing, you know. It's been a while.
I don't think I'm going back at all. Is that the answer you want?
No, well, I mean, at least, no, if you love what you do, you found your niche, I see no problem with, I mean, being involved in the development of young people. I mean, not enough credit sometimes is given to the learn to swim coaches or learn to swim instructors. Sometimes when people say it, they say it with a condescending tone, but you're teaching a life skill. And we see what's going on. Even throughout the COVID, we had like a lot of drownings, etc. And I mean, you're all lifesavers as well. So
that's correct. That's correct. You know, and it's all about educating the kids and the parents as well. You know, even when I mean, people who know how to swim, you have to be aware of your surroundings as well. And you know, you go to Miaru, you know it's dangerous water. I have my sister's teenage kids now, and they would get upset with me because I don't allow them to go a certain distance. No, they need to understand and respect the water. You know, and this is something we need to really emphasize on, learning to swim on, and then the do's and the don'ts in the water, be it the pool or the sea.
Katian Boko, former national swimmer, national record holder, the founder of the Boko Aquatic Swim School. What final words do you have for Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, Jason, thank you very much for asking me to be on the program. I know I was hesitant to be here, but I made it. I'm still alive. My heart is beating a little faster than normal, but that is life. If I had to tell the kids of Trinidad and Tobago anything, and I would address the kids, especially those involved in sport across the board, how fortunate they are today to have the opportunity to excel in their preferred sports and further their passions to a higher level outside of TNT, be it camps. There's so much more available now at FINA University, opportunities to further their education as well. We have seen a few people on the program who, were able to get the opportunity to go to swim for universities, and they keep talking about how important it was, and it's such a big part of their life. And it's not easy. It's never going to be easy. It requires discipline, hard work. Whichever sport you choose to select, and you go from there. So don't run from hard work, is what I would have to tell the young people. Find a passion and go for it.
Kathy and Boko, is it that racing hard that make the camera not work?
The
Lord is a good God.
He's a good God.
No, but Kathy, you have given a lot to swimming in Trinidad and Tobago. Again, some messages on my phone. Somebody say, Grover, say hi. Grover, Tony.
Right, yes. I don't see the messages.
Right. So I just want to thank you for your contribution to Trinidad and Tobago swimming. I know this is a difficult time for all of us, but hopefully when it's all said and done, everybody comes out when we're out of the lockdown and comes rushing to swim.
Yeah, we are resilient people, so we will succeed. It will take some hard work and rebuilding, but I think everybody involved in the learn to swim aspect of swimming, we have some work ahead of us, but we will succeed. We will survive.
We will survive. So we're leaving here with, Kathy is leaving here with that. Learn to swim. We are going to survive. Swimming is going to survive this COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much, Kathy, and keep safe.
No problem, Jason. Take care. Cheers.
Thank you. Right, so that was Kathy and Buko. We had to do it a little differently. Kathy and Buko are former national swimmer, and we're going across the ocean. Good evening, Ms. Sonia O'Neal. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good evening, Sonia O'Neal. How have you been? How are you?
I've been good, thank you, Jason.
So Sonia O'Neal is from the beautiful island of Barbados, which hopefully we will go to soon if they open our borders. She's a FINA listed referee. She's the CCCAN Treasurer. She's the Vice Chair of the UANA Technical Committee, and she has been a mainstay in Barbados swimming for a lot of time. Good evening, Sonia, and welcome to Chlorine Callaloo.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for the invitation.
Sonia, let me start with a question. Remember the last time you came to Trinidad when we had a goodwill?
Yes, of course.
You have anything to report?
No, we decided that we would let bygones be bygones and turn a page.
All right, we turn a new leaf. So Sonia O'Neal, she is, I would like, I mean, she may not like the description, but I would like to call her the First Lady of Officiating in the Caribbean. Oh my goodness. And, yes. And other than the knowledge, I want to ask you a question. Other than the knowledge of the rules of the sport, what are some of the qualities you think should be found in a technical official?
Well, first thing, a technical official should be professional, professional on deck, in that you're working with the other stakeholders of the competition. You're working with coaches, you're working with parents, you're working with the swimmers. So you must be professional in how you deal with them in the application of the rules. Also, you need to exude confidence. Confidence builds trust. When the other stakeholders get the sense that you know what you're about, it would add to the stability of the competition, because people then will, of course, perceive that you know what you're about, you know to manage your competition. So therefore, they don't have to be unduly concerned that the competition, you know, may not run well or run in their interests.
Right.
The other thing that technical officials should be, other than knowledgeable about the rules, is that you need to be able to build relationships while you're on deck. Build relationships, especially with the coaches. Obviously, the coaches and the parents are the major stakeholders in a competition, and that the parents supply the swimmers, the coaches coach them. And therefore, when somebody is disqualified, obviously coaches are concerned, parents as well. So in dealing with them and answering their queries and allaying their fears, you're able to build working relationships with them, that they can come to you if there's an issue, even before somebody gets disqualified. If there's an issue, if there's a query on something, you build good enough relationships, they feel comfortable in approaching you to get that particular issue resolved. So technical officials must be people on deck who exude confidence, who are humble. You know, you don't walk up and down on the deck as if you own the place and that you're the big boss and that kind of thing. You don't want that kind of atmosphere. You want to be able to blend very well with the other stakeholders for a successful competition.
So you serve as president of the Barbados Swimming Association, and now you are on the Barbados Technical Swimming Committee. You're the chair of that committee. Tell us about the role and function of that committee. Is it a council-created committee. Can you tell us about it?
Well, as swimming, evolve, and you want to manage competitions professionally, you will see the need for a cadre of officials that you train and that can manage a competition, whether you're there or not.
Right.
So the making of a technical swimming committee where you're in contact with those persons to whom you have entrusted the competition makes sense, where you will meet occasionally, discuss any new changes in the rules, make sure that everybody is on the same page, make sure that people are knowledgeable about how to manage competitions and manage competitions professionally. And our aim is always to manage competitions just as well as they're managed at the FINA level, so that when we move from Barbados or when we move from the region and we go to a FINA competition, there's no change actually, because this is how we are accustomed to managing our competitions. And therefore, when you get to the FINA level, you feel comfortable, you're at home. It's
Right.
no big thing. This is what we do at each competition. So you're comfortable. So having a technical swimming committee to oversee those things certainly is a development that is necessary in order to continue to develop the management of your competitions in a very professional way and in a way that meets with the standards at the FINA level.
So it's separate and apart from your council. It's independent.
Separate from the council. We do not attend any council meetings. All we would need to do if we're having an occasion, we will inform the president that we would like to do this or we would like to do that. Or if we want to train a new set of officials, we will just inform him that we would like to do this. For example, if you're hosting a, let's say, CORIFTA or CCCAN, we will host a training occasion where we can bring more officials on board. And so therefore that is another aspect of the technical committee, where they're entrusted then with the training and bringing on board new officials in order to ensure that swimming continues to be managed well, and you pass on the knowledge and the information so that whether you're there or not, the competitions continue to run at that level.
So, I mean, how do you feel right now about the level of officiating within the Caribbean region? And how well is the region represented with technical officials on the world stage?
Well, I'm very proud of Caribbean officials, to be quite honest with you. I recently got a text from a fellow official who used to live in the Cayman Islands and is now living in the UK. And he mentioned to me, you know, you in the Caribbean, you just do not have anything to worry about. When I compare what I experienced in the Caribbean and what I'm experiencing now in the UK, Caribbean officials are head and shoulders with anybody up here. And I mean, I was aware of that for a long time, because in attending competitions and you observe your Caribbean officials, they know exactly what they're doing. And so I think that we can be very proud of what we have produced in the Caribbean. And certainly they stand head and shoulders with anybody else, any part of the world.
That's good to know. That's good to hear. But so we have these officials on the deck. I mean, probably you could tell us the Barbados situation or what usually applies. You have officials on the deck. Is there like a system of review of the performance of these officials?
Not necessarily a formal system. I've been trying to get CCCAN to formalize something, to put something formal in place, but what is happening right now is that each country is responsible for developing its own officials.
Right.
We observe and we assess the officials when they come out to competitions like CARIFTA and CCCAN, and you put them on deck and you observe how they apply the rules, how they conduct themselves on the deck, how they build, you know, relationships, their professionalism and so on. And, and that is how you assess them mainly, but the country is responsible for making the decision whether they go on the FINA list or not. Being on the FINA list is just a matter of the National Federation signing the FINA application form. And once that is signed by the secretary or the president of the federation, that person then is on the FINA list. So to answer your question, there's no formal system in place to review the officials, but certainly we observe them at competitions, and hopefully in the not too distant future, we can have put a system in place to review, you know, to do just that, to review our officials.
So you're the chair of the Barbados Technical Swimming Committee. How important has that committee been to contribute to the efficient running of swim meets in Barbados?
Well, certainly, as I said before, you have an organized you have an organized group whose responsibility it is to ensure that competitions are conducted at a particular standard. Whether the president of the federation is there or not, the officials come on deck and ensure that the necessary props, the necessary structure is in place to ensure the competition runs, that you have a swimmer's waiting area in place, that you have someone to check in the swimmers, the clerk of course, that you have an announcer, that you have stroke and turn judges. You have a briefing before each competition to ensure that if there are any gray areas in terms of application of the rules, that within that briefing, those gray areas can be smoothed over or explained to persons. So it is very, very important, because if you didn't have such a structure, then your competitions would be a bit ad hoc and haphazard, not knowing then where this organized group is going to come from, if they're available. But we ensure the availability of the officials for each competition to ensure that they turn up to manage and run the competition. So for me, having a structure like that is quite integral, and it's pivotal towards ensuring that competitions are managed at a professional level, and that you don't have an ad hoc situation in place where you never know if people are going to turn up for the competition. You're not sure, and therefore there is always that, you know, caveat where the competition may not run well. But with a technical committee, you have a little bit of assurance that these people will turn up and what to expect from them.
So if you're now joining us, this is SONIA O'NEAL, former president of the Barbados. What's the official name right now? Is it the Aquatic Barbados?
It's the Barbados Aquatic Sports Association. Yes.
Right. And she's also on several committees across the region. You started your administrative birth with Alpha back in 1996, and then later on you had some other positions, and you were the president from 2000 to 2012. 12 years, that's a while. And then after that, you went on to, it seems your resume started to look more regional and international. Was that a deliberate path?
Not necessarily deliberate, but I would say is more like a natural path. If you're going to continue in officiating, it's more like a natural path to grow in officiating and to learn more. So I got into officiating mainly because during those years, there used to be always a shortage of officials. As I said, you had that ad hoc situation where you didn't know who was going to turn up.
Right.
It was always a scramble for who's going to be a starter, who's going to be a referee. You don't know if this person is available, etc., etc. So that situation kind of pushed me to get into officiating, especially when I became president, to ensure then that problem, that we could resolve that problem by you are the person who has the interest in the competition at the admin level, and therefore under your management, under your watch, you want to ensure that things work well. So you get involved, you get more involved, because obviously you want to resolve this situation. So I got, more involved in officiating, and then obviously the natural route then is to get involved regionally. You attend regional meets and you officiate at these regional meets, and then you make your way up to the FINA level, obviously with a view towards passing on that information then to your fellow officials, so that the region then grows as well, because you're not in it just because you want to promote yourself. You want to ensure that the region that you're from also grow in officiating, and can tell a very good story about how we have grown in terms of managing competitions and also be head and shoulders with other people.
Yes, Sonia O'Neal. So you started as a swim parent, and we just discussed you have gone way beyond that. How important is it for parents to be involved in the aquatic fraternity?
Say that again, Jason.
How important is for parents to be involved in the aquatic fraternity?
Of course, parents form the pool of volunteers from which we draw, both officials and for other aspects around the pool. So parents are very important to the survival of swimming, or any sport for that matter. If swimming or any sport for that matter had to pay all of its volunteers or people who keep the sport alive, I don't think that the sport will survive. So the volunteers, the parents, provide or play a very essential role in keeping the sport alive and keeping the sport affordable so that more people can get involved. So certainly we welcome the involvement of the parents because most things revolve around their availability.
So let me talk a little bit about CCCAN. Last week I spoke to Mr. Cargill, and in his interview he made a reference that there's some politics in the region. Some people say there's a little English-Spanish issue. Do you agree with this position that there is an issue, and can anything be done about it?
Obviously, if I don't speak your language, hence I cannot build a successful relationship with you. So you might grow a little bit suspicious of me because I don't know what you're about. And I might grow a little bit suspicious of you because, we can't talk, we can't communicate effectively. So therefore, you have this suspicion.
Right.
And obviously then you tend to gravitate towards the people that speak your language. I think that this is at the root of the situation where the Caribbean is grouped with Central America, And then, of course, we are part of the Americas, and then you have South America as well that speaks Spanish. For some, if we could bridge the language gap, I believe that the situation will resolve itself over time, because then we'll be able to speak to them, we'll be able to build trust in speaking their language and getting to know them better. And I think that that will eventually go away. When I go out to a CCCAN meet, even although I speak a little Spanish, you sometimes would wish that you'd be able to have meaningful conversations with more people, but then you don't have the Spanish vocabulary to have that level of conversation. So you end up sometimes speaking through an interpreter, etc., etc. So I think it is more that we don't speak the language. Obviously, then if you don't speak the language, the politics will get into it. When the politics get into it, there's no way of resolving it, because you cannot speak the language, so you can't say anything to them to allay fears. So, but I don't think it's insurmountable. I just think that we have to learn to speak Spanish. I don't think the problem will be resolved maybe in our generation, but certainly as time goes on, I do feel that we can build better relationships with them if we can speak their language. So it is not a problem that cannot be resolved. You just have to work with it strategically. And I think that it can be resolved.
So, Ms. Sonia O'Neal, you started your administration back in 1996. And if you had one, and we're in 2020 now, and if you had one word to describe the progression of Barbados swimming, what would you say? Just one word.
I don't know if I can find one word.
I'll give it to you.
Because different administrations obviously would have different ways and methods of how they want to organize swimming and where they would like to take the sport. So I would like to think that it has been progressive in that you build on what the other person would have left in place, you add to it, but it may not always be that it is built perhaps in a predictable way, in the way that you may have envisaged that it would have been built. But and this is because, as I said, different administrations have different visions and different areas that they want to concentrate on.
But I'm talking to Sonia O'Neal. On a whole, how do you feel about the progress of Barbados swimming? I'm giving it 3 words max.
Well, I did give you one. I said progressive.
Progressive.
Progressive. For example, okay.
That wasn't my question.
During my tenure, I wanted swimming, and not necessarily just Barbados swimming, but I wanted regional swimming to conquer, say, the CAC Games or the Pan American Games. I felt that there was a lot of concentration on age group swimming like CARIFTA and CCCAN, and that we were not focused on trying to conquer the open competitions. We would go to CARIFTA, we would come back with a ton of medals, 52 medals, 100 medals, whatever. And we would feel that we have achieved quite a bit. By the time you get to CCCAN, you come back with, I suppose, less. But when you get to CAC Games now, hardly any, maybe 3 medals, maybe whatever, but CAC swimming, you would hardly have, medals at that level. And my focus during my tenure was to build build the sport to be able to conquer CAC games, that our swimmers can perform successfully at that level as well, and also go to Pan American Games and get a gold medal, or you know, as many medals as possible. So I do think that there may be too much of a concentration on Carifta, and then there's a big fall away when you reach the CAC Games, which is the first open competition, as it were, for our region. And then, of course, the Pan American Games is the continental championships, where you swim against America and Canada and South America as well. I think that being in the Americas, we have a great opportunity within our continental championships to compete against America. And I do think that more advantage should be taken of trying to build our swimmers to the level where they can take on competitions at that level. But for some reason, we tend to focus more on Carifta, and Carifta is given a very large place in this sport in our region, and that some of us think of Carifta as the Olympics of the Caribbean, and to me, it's a false confidence, and that then the swimmers don't have the impetus then to aspire to conquer CAC Games and Pan American Games, and then go on, you know, obviously to the FINA meets.
So is it, we have to start to wrap up, but is it that you would think we should probably have a more Caribbean approach, because you're saying that the Caribbean probably exalts this thing, or I don't know if it's Barbados alone, like if it's the Olympics, should there be some kind of Caribbean approach probably to get more of our Caribbean swimmers performing at those games, at least the CACs, the Pan Ams?
Well, to do that, we have to get our coaches' mindset out of age group swimming, obviously, and to focus more on building then for that kind of competition. And I said all of that to say that different administrations will have different foci, but mine was to try to build to that level. We need to get out of that complacency of Carifta and CCCAN, and we need to move on. So that was mine. Another administration may have something else. So therefore, you know, you have the pendulum depending on where the focus is.
So Sonia O'Neal, I have one more question for you, right? You know, I can't leave without giving you a hard question. Trinidad and Tobago has talent both in the pool and in administration, but has a history of politics, personality clashes, and frequent changes of administration. And probably it has contributed to some of our lack of, well, our not being dominant in the Caribbean anymore. If the country I was describing was Barbados and Sonia O'Neal was the what do you think would be some of the first steps to recovery?
Well, first, if you're talking about your fall away from being dominant in regional competitions, it may not only be an admin problem, but we have to stay laser focused on our coaches. Coaches and talented swimmers are what bring results. The administration tend to gel things together and create an enabling environment for these things to take place. But the coaches need to be trained. They need to get out of their complacency. So there need to be a focus on developing coaches in order to take the swimmers forward. So if that problem was there and I was anywhere in terms of leading, I would certainly have an audit of the coaches, have an audit of their, you know, their capabilities, etc., and then see what we can do to remedy that situation. One, create an enabling environment then for whatever plans you have made to take place, and that the administration then must obviously provide have a facility for training to take place, have fair and equitable distribution of resources, and build trust then among the parents that you know what you're doing, and that this program then would build back a competitive environment within the National Federation that would make swimmers want to be part then, or make the athletes want to be part of what is happening. So that is how I would start to build back.
Thank you very much, Sonia O'Neal. Thank you for forgiving me for my sins in the past. But thank you very much for your contribution to Caribbean swimming. I mean, I say it again, I see you as one of the, I mean, Wendell actually was in the comment, Wendell Lahing, and he said one of the most knowledgeable officials in swimming. I gave you a title, First Lady of Officiating. If you don't want to take it, that's fine. Thank you. I mean, you served as the president of the association. You didn't need the political office because you continued to serve Barbados straight until now. And it shows that there's some kind of continuity as well in the association, because I'm sure you would lend your support however you can as well. So thank you for putting the Caribbean on the map. Thank you for all that you have done for swimming in the region and in Barbados.
Thank you very much, Jason, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. So that was Sonia O'Neal of Barbados. As we get ready for our next segment. Hold on, let me unmute you. Right.
Hey. All right, so well, you just did the interviewing there, so you didn't do too much talking, but now it's your turn to do some talking. All right. So we know you have worn many hats in swimming, and even though you've never been a competitive swimmer or a coach in swimming, we have heard your name and seen your face a lot around swimming. And you know, a lot of persons speak about passion, and we see nothing short of that with you. So, as a president or co-founder of the Center of Excellence Seahawks Swim Club from 2009 to 2015, president or co-founder of Titan Swim Club, merged with Seahawks 2011 to 2014, co-founder RWB Aquastars out of Center of Excellence 2014, and they subsequently created a competitive club 2015. PRO, Tidal Wave, 5 years, you've been around, right? Even after that, yeah, right? So, what was your introduction to the sport of swimming, and specifically sport administration?
Well, if you talk about my introduction to swimming, when I started to learn to swim, my introduction was running away on the deck. Yeah, the instructors used to have to run me down because I didn't want to swim. And I guess I stuck with that straight throughout my life. I swim. And actually, when I first got into sport administration is when in ASAT per se, is when I actually went across the tidal wave aquatics. That was sometime between 2001, 2002. And I was getting involved in the club. I was pretty young-ish. And Mrs. Haynes actually had asked me to come to a council meeting back then. And basically, after then, I started to show interest in the whole sport administration. Even before you spoke about the different positions I had, and even before I got a position, I remember specifically that I went to a ASAT meeting, and one of the things that was being discussed was a national team and the selection of a national team. And while they were there, it was like a fish market where people were trying to see how they could get their swimmers on the team. They didn't seem to have any scientific way. It was just who could shout the loudest, and they were looking using first, second place. They weren't looking at like the whole picture as in where this person would place in Caribbean. So even before I came on to the executive, I was one of the actually first person that would have introduced the qualifying times for the CCCAN, the goodwill, all the criteria for the different meets. I mean, it has been developed since then. So you spoke about my club stuff already. So that basically how I got into the administration part of it.
Right, but I mean, even the previous interview and throughout, I mean, we come into a close of this season with Chlorine Callaloo. We have discussed volunteerism and how important it is, right? You don't have any children in the sport of swimming. You weren't a previous national swimmer. That's where we see a lot of persons come from, right? So what was the catalyst to make you volunteer or sign up for? I mean, you discussed you want an executive position, but what made you volunteer and motivated you?
I don't know. The thing about it is I initially started just going along with my mom. That was in the past when my sisters and they used to swim. But when I was involved in the council of ASAT per se, I just thought that better could be done. I just thought that more could be done. And I know at that point in time, I knew that, you know, if I put my mind to it, I could make a contribution and fix things. So that's why I offered myself up for a position. I think the first position, actually, my first election, I didn't win. I went up as a PRO, I didn't win. And then the following election, I became the Assistant Secretary Treasurer. I think that was in 2006.
All right. And as Joey and I discussed, the term failure is often overused because people see it as they don't get through with this regard at this time that you failed. And I mean, you say you were unsuccessful initially, right? But you were success after. In what capacities have you served for the Swimming Association of Trinidad?
Right. Well, as you mentioned some before, I was the Assistant Secretary Treasurer first from 2006 to 2008. And then I think from 2008 to 2011, I thought that, you know, I could contribute to the PR position. So I became the Public Relations Officer, I believe for 2 terms. And then I decided that I was not going to run again for election. And I indicated at that point in time that the next time I would run for a position would be in 2013, which would be president of the association. But I was unsuccessful in that bid. And I actually came back. I took a break. I was around in the sport, but I was not on administration per se. But I actually came back in 2018. And 2018, because I had no, people were asking me, Jason, run for this, run for that, and Jason had absolutely no interest in being a part of the association. And actually, I believe I mentioned this to you before, actually the catalyst for me going the last time in 2016, sorry, I said 2018. It was from 2016 to 2018. Is actually when the whole election rumblings was going on. That was sometime around your accident as well.
Yeah.
I remember that I still didn't want to, and then I remember seeing you actually hallucinating about swimming and complaining on the land when I had 2 working legs and 2 working hands, and I knew that I could have contributed to swimming. And Wendell Lahing, who was indicating he wanted to run for president at the time, I mean, I thought he was the best person for swimming. And I told him, when I saw that, I said, you know what? I called him and I said, Wendell, whatever position he needed me for, put me in, because I mean, it's not something that I really want to do, but it's something like you have to do, you know, because you just have to do it.
And I'll be personal here. I know you, as people know, and it hurts me to see you not having, I mean, this is a good step, but it hurts me to see you not having more of a say or playing a part in the direction. I know it's not your choice, right? But I mean, do you?
It partially was my choice because after 2018, I decided that I wasn't running again. I didn't lose office.
Right, because I mean, because of various factors, it wasn't like, all right, you just say, you know what? It's not because you don't have the time or those things. I mean, as Joey mentioned as well, some of
I thought that, and I'm not afraid to say that right now, and it has been so a while, the environment in swimming could be pretty toxic.
Yeah, definitely.
And I took a step to protect my mental health when it came to swimming, and part of that was just take a step back. I mean, I went a step further because I actually took a step to see about my mental health as well, because during the time 2018 to 2019, I actually went for therapy as well.
Okay.
I started doing that as well. Believe it or not. Yeah.
I mean, I know you, and I know you dislike seeing some of what goes on. And we continue to live in hope, right? I mean, you although there's a disconnect, which we'll discuss later, you have one foot in the door, although it's not really recognized, but you run a swimming facility, you run Center of Excellence, right? So swimming is a part of your everyday life, right? And just like administration, it didn't start off there, right? What field were you into before, and what really made you? I mean, you would often hear coaches and people in swimming say, it's not a full-time career, it's a stepping stone towards something. However, you left a career to go to what people see as a stepping stone today.
Yeah, I actually was an accountant. I pursued accounting for all my life. And one of those. And I mean, sometimes, you're just going through the paces because, you study accounting, you're going through the paces. That's what I felt after a while. But I mean, in 2013, actually, I got a job actually in the Answer Macal group. And I felt, hey, Jason, you're already starting to build your career at this point in time. And then the opportunity came up in 2014 when the pool at the Center of Excellence was available for lease. And I got together some of my friends, and I don't know, it's just like, I was unsure about doing it because they were talking about, from the aspect of that, the club that I was affiliated to at the time, which was Sea Swim Club, we were worried that, okay, they're putting up this place to lease, we're going to be out of a place, what's going to happen, we don't know what's going to happen. And I was just operating in fear. And one person had told me that, Jason, so why don't throw your hat in the ring? And I know you were urging me on as well. And you just take that leap of faith, you realize that for whatever reason you love this sport and you decided to give up your career and focus it totally on swimming. And for me it was a big leap too, because I didn't know much about learn to swim and the learn to swim aspect of it. So it was like you move from the competitive and you have to build from the ground up. It was a totally different experience, but it's one I have not regretted up to today.
Definitely. So, I mean, I know RWB Aqua Stars was founded in 2014. Since then, they have produced some top talents, well, junior, because they haven't been around that long. Do you see a connection between, besides your opinion and what you see at Summit, but do you feel there's a connect between your organization and the overall swimming body that governs the country?
I mean, definitely not. I mean, learn to swim is not a priority, in my opinion, in the Amateur Swimming Association. And I think it's a part that they should look at, because swimmers come from somewhere. Yeah. And even if you have to look at it from a financial perspective, you end up with more membership, right? It will enable the marketability of the sport. You can also help the competitive coaches by having a Learn to Swim program or national Learn to Swim program that probably could better enable when the competitive coaches receive the athletes, they're more prepared for that competitive swimming. So I think there definitely needs to be a link between Learn to Swim and competitive swimming. It will multiply the membership of the association tenfold, at least. And it will also help in coach development and just creating greater synergies within the sport.
Definitely, because I mean, you RWB Aqua Stars, you all held a swim meet was last year, right? Was your first swim meet, right?
Yeah, it was your first swim meet.
Right? And you all had in excess of 400 persons, right? I mean, when you go, you all filled the capacity. I keep saying you all, we filled the capacity, but it's about you. So we filled Center of Excellence. Like, I have not seen a swim meet full in quite some time, right? And this was a solely a developmental. So it didn't have the competitive swimmers there, like it was a merger, right? So I would think that the National Association for Swimming would have seen this and decided, you know what, I could filter in some of these persons and let's try to form some synergies. But it seems like this.
I think too, because I mean, the National Association is really us. I mean, Cindy brought this up in the past. ASAT is really us and the people who form the coaches, the clubs. And yes, there's some, of course, the persons who lead ASAT, of course, have to take responsibility for the direction of the association. But we in the fraternity as well, sometimes you're so caught up with this competitive swimming, and you see, Ms. O'Neill said, cricket is like the Olympics for some people. And it's just so much more to swimming. And that's why as well, too, you found that even when, I mean, with this whole COVID thing, and I was out in the media trying to get some support to open the pools. And that's why I was targeting it from a global perspective and not focusing on competitive swimming.
Yeah.
Right? The truth of the matter is, and I mean, I know people who run competitive clubs and have learned to swim can vouch for this, have learned to swim, and really the one that drives the competitive clubs financially and otherwise. And it makes no sense that you have competitive swimming without learning to swim. I mean, that's why I kept it in the conversation.
Yeah, because I mean, over the years, you have persons who either drop out the sport, or they move on to the States, or they go to tertiary education and they stop swimming, right? They start swimming for their schools, and you have to continuously replenishing. And I mean, I have been on the ground with Learn to Swim, and I have handpicked and seen so much potential, right? But then at the end of the day, if the whole organization seems really disorganized and non-forward thinking, parents not gravitating towards it, they know, all right, if I get in here, there's no funding, there's not, I mean, besides, what do we have to offer as a swimming body? I mean, yes, if your child loves it, you encourage them, but we tell a parent to come in, bring a child, 5 to 7 in the 5 to 6:30 in the morning, 4 to 6 in the evening. You have all these hours to do. Then you have to fund swim meets, going away, or whatever.
I think all of this comes back to like how we are governed, the governance of the association. We really need to have structures in the association that would cater for the needs of all these stakeholders. Sometimes fundraising is a sporadic activity as opposed to a planned process. Even a swimmer, I mean, sorry to say, but sometimes in national teams is a sporadic process, not a planned. We don't, like, we should have a plan that, you know, that in the next 4 years we're taking, we want to have how many people on the Olympic team. So our planning and our governance within the association needs to be strengthened. It will make us more marketable as well to corporate Trinidad and Tobago so that we can raise those funds. It will make us seem a more responsible association as well to the government of Trinidad and Tobago, which is our major sponsor. And it will also inspire confidence within the fraternity association with strong governance, strong transparency and accountability. You will get a natural gravitation for parents to want to serve in the process as well and assist.
All right. I mean, we have an idea what governance is, and on that topic, in the promo itself, right, you said it's good governance in Trinidad and Tobago, mission impossible. Right? So do you think that, yes, we know that is what is needed. Do you think it is possible?
Of course it is. I think earlier this year that the association made a right step with at least producing a draft revised constitution, but we haven't had much further discussion on that. And there are many things in the constitution that are not enforced, that are outdated. And there's one thing that actually has hampered elections in this association, has probably varied the outcomes of elections in this association, and it's something that we call ghost clubs. These clubs are clubs that take no active part in the association. They do not have active competitive swimmers. And they are allowed to come every election and vote. They're allowed to be a part of our quorum. So every time you have a council meeting, there are some clubs missing, well, the ghosts, and it's your ability Yeah, it affects the ability to conduct business in the association, and I find it is. Let me put it this way: in 2013, when I ran for president, I didn't go to any ghost club looking for a vote because I don't believe in ghosts, right? And it is something that needs to be addressed, and I hope that the new constitution could address it. That we have persons who really contributing to the sport being able to have that say when it's time for elections. To happen. So I would like that to be fixed definitely within the governance of the association. The whole membership situation.
Agreed. So you discussed the ghost clubs. I mean, so the accountability isn't great, to be honest. We spoke about good governance to bring funding. Do you see any other ways that we listened to the gentleman from Bahamas speak last week, and do you see ways that Assad can be more self-sufficient?
No, this time is a little difficult. No, I mean, if we were self-sufficient,
with any regular running of.
One answer is that, I mean, it would have been so nice if we started that move to self-sufficiency pre-COVID, because now the times are a bit different. But we too often are cap in hand to the government. We need to make our sport and package our sport that a sponsor would latch on to us. I mean, we have been benefiting from a lot of good graces from some sponsors within the community, and I will call their names. Like, I mean, you'll have Camille Chateau through Caribbean Butlers, Amanda Macmillan through Massey, and also had a big up Subway that always sponsors swimming. Yeah. We have benefited because we have people there who have a direct interest, but we really have to see if we could position this sport to attract not just local sponsors, but international sponsors. Why can't Team Trinidad and Tobago have a kit? Right? Every swim team. I mean, honestly, I am. Sometimes I'm ashamed, honestly, to see when Trinidad and Tobago is at Curfew and CCCAN, and they have on different shades of tracksuits, and it's not something I like at all. And at the end of the day, for example, the government of Trinidad and Tobago in the last budget said they are going to increase the corporate tax exemptions for persons who give to sport. They haven't said what swimming will be getting per se. So we need to use this time to see how best we can package swimming. You heard the man from Mr. Cargill from Bahamas talk about how swimming is live in their national short course, long course, whatever it is, 4 days of competition is live on TV in Bahamas, and the stands is full. So I mean, it takes a lot because we have to change the culture in Trinidad to come out and support sports. I mean, we don't respect sport as we should. So it will take a lot of marketing. It will take a lot of teamwork, finding the right people for the right positions, and just getting everybody on board.
All right, okay. Just wrapping up, I mean, I want to head into some other topics. Touchy one, you all discussed it in your last interview with the First Lady of Officiating, right? But parents, right? Instructing the association, we know the value of parents. We know the drawbacks of too much involvement by parents, right? But as you mentioned just now with the sponsorship, it comes from parents, right? Parents, affiliation, and the corporations, right? A parents association, I know ideas that was thrown out. What are your views on the role of parents in building the sport?
I think parents are important partners in the sports. A parent association or parent support group, I mean, to me, that is for the parents to organize. I mean, if you have that interest in swimming and building swimming, and you think having a parent support group will be a pressure group or advisory group to the association, you go ahead and you do that. You form that parent association. Maybe you could apply for associate membership in the association, because you don't need to have the active competitive swimmers. You just need to say that you are providing support to the association, so you can do that. But sometimes parents come to me and say, you know, how Assad this and Assad that, but I didn't know anybody in ASAT, right? I ended up on the executive 4 times, right? I mean, I wasn't a swimmer or anything like that. I ended up on the executive 4 times because, I mean, I aligned myself to organizations that encourage my interests and my growth. So maybe, I mean, if you're having difficulties within you want to serve and you think you can serve and you're having difficulties within your club, you need, I think parents, if probably in hindsight, you know, when they're starting up with a club or registering with a club, probably clubs too should let parents know, hey, this is what is expected. We want you to be a volunteer. You know, you have opportunities to go and serve on ASAT. And maybe if we're starting from the club level, probably we could see it trickle through the association as well.
All right. So I want to step off from the association for a little while and head more directly to the pool, right? We started discussing something earlier about the disconnect between the Swimming Association and Learn to Swim in Trinidad, which me personally, I am not satisfied with, right? Because I'm involved in Learn to Swim as well as competitive, right? Yeah, we saw you last week or week before, you were on the TV6 News, all right? And the fact is that before going there, you had done your due diligence and you were trying to find out, right? Do you think, how would you suggest we go about finding a way for greater coherence with the National Swimming Association and Learn to Swim?
Well, we need people who care about Learn to Swim. Maybe the time is not to be dependent on the National Association. I mean, we have a lot of Learn to Swim providers, and there are a lot of more Learn to Swim clubs than competitive swim clubs. So maybe we shouldn't put to the association, granted, because the association already is recognized by the Ministry of Sport as the association, so they will get funding from the ministry directly. So probably if the persons in the association, the swimming association, don't see Learn to Swim as being an important part, maybe it's time for the providers to get together and to do what we need to do, because it's affecting us. I mean, we go through the whole of COVID, it affects us directly, and we did not have somewhere to go to during this time. Pool operators, Learn to Swim clubs had nowhere to go to during this time. And I mean, we could argue competitive swim clubs may say the same thing too.
Yeah, because even in discussions and all, you would often hear them discussing the competitive clubs opening back, and you wouldn't hear them talking about just swimming in general. Learn to swim, right? So
that's why I was trying to drive the message, and also to drive the message that you need, in order for pools to be operational, you need swim to happen.
Right. So I think we have been going about this. I mean, yes, as a coach, I am responsible for my development.
Right.
Individual clubs will be, some of them will take responsibility for their coaches and possibly send them on courses or just offer material, right? I know you're not a coach in that regard, but I think your expertise and your experience would give you knowledge on this, right? I mean, yes, we have swim meets, we have training schedules for the aquatic center, etc., right? But I still feel like there's a void in coaching. I mean, we spoke with Mr. Bouchet, and he was talking about being willing to come and mentor coaches, right? At the end of the day, as coaches, we have to do our own learning. You do often, I mean, you saw Sport Company doing things, bringing in coaches. How do you think we could start a bridge gap to get us on top? I think it starts from the coaches, eh?
Correct. It does start from the coaches, and I think coaches need to respect themselves and respect one another first. We have brought this up in the past because there's too much infighting, too much. I break it down to a lack of respect. This one is this coach, this one is that coach. So I think first of all, the coaches need to get together and come to the realization that, let's be real, how many persons have consistently and continuously developed elite swimmers in Trinidad and Tobago? I mean, everybody has produced a curve, right? So what's elite about that? So it shows that we have a lot of work to do. I mean, Sonia spoke about that, you know, we have celebrated, as in, she said Barbados, probably the Caribbean, celebrated curve like is the Olympics, right? But we at the coaches first, I think, need to come together and have that respect, for one another. And I think more of the finances of the association needs to be invested in coach training and coach development. People want better swimmers, but the coaches need to be, we have coaches that have developed talent on their own. And some people think they reach, right? But I think there really needs to be a focus on coach development from the learn to swim level straight up to competitive swimming.
Definitely, because even in terms of technology, right? When you go away, you would see you could go in a pool, underwater cameras. Everything, they could break it down to a science, right? So our swims, you would look at our athletes, our swimmers, and their times are decent compared to age group swimmers. In the States, they don't push them as hard as we do from young. They more focus on technique. We focus on mileage. So we put miles on miles on wrong technique and expect it to succeed as they get older, right? And I think that's a big thing. We have this culture of, hey, you know what? I want to be the best now, all right? And I think all those things are hindrances for us, like technology. Most clubs can't afford the technology needed to really help swimmers to get to that elite status.
Yeah, but at the same time, we do have a National Aquatic Center.
Mm-hmm.
And the National Aquatic Center, to me, was supposed to be a hub for a lot of things. If I'm not mistaken, they may have something for underwater technology, possibly.
Yeah.
But we need to be we focus. One of our problems is we focus a lot on building buildings and not building people, and probably not allocating the limited resources we have in the right direction. If we think about it, if you look at a value analysis of the money spent in Trinidad and Tobago on aquatics, millions and millions and millions of dollars have been spent. Have we gotten value for money? How many Olympic medals have we gotten? Right? We have been spending money in the wrong places. And I think we really have to look at our budget. We have to look at our planning. We have to look at the future and determine what we really want for aquatics in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, aquatics, just to veer off a little bit, do you think, in my time, there were greater synergies between water polo and swimming. You often don't see that now. Right. Do you think greater coherence between the two can raise the level of both disciplines?
That's a coach answer. But I've heard, I heard John Stanley speak about it last week. And he was an open water swimmer, a water polo player. And he went to Pan Am in pool swimming, and he was able to do all of that. And I think we should be able to me, once an athlete could do it, allow them to do it, right? Oh. And also I think too, there needs to be a greater understanding, because sometimes we in swimming look at water polo as a whole different world, all of the association. So I think there needs to be better communication and synergies when it comes to that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so looking at wrap up shortly. You talk your lips off for 20 episodes, all right? You've served as an asset officer for 4 terms and about 7 years between 2006 to 2018, right? 2 questions. What did you do?
What do?
Yeah.
I could look at some of my achievements. I believe that for example, when I was the public relations officer of the Swimming Association, and it took a while for me to even be able to say this, but I think to my recollection, I'm the best one they've ever had. I raised the profile of swimming in Trinidad and Tobago by being engaged with the press. We had a good relationship with the media, well, for the most part. Yeah. And people knew a lot more about swimming, and I contributed to the development of the website. Joseph Ryan came in after me. He took it to a next level. We used to get the award ceremonies going regularly. When I was the assistant secretary treasurer, any position that I took in the association within my field or within my post, I tried to do it to the best of my ability. But I am proud, especially of the public relations, what I was able to do at the point in time and to raise the profile of aquatics in Trinidad and Tobago.
And while we applaud you for that, right? we would look on the next side of things, as in, do you see any areas you could have done better, or would you, looking at where we are now, would you class yourself as often difficult for us to look at ourselves and see, am I part of the problem that exists?
I have been part of the problem that exists. There are a lot of times that I would have ideas in my head and probably keep it to myself. I would have opinions and keep it to myself. And there's this saying that, you know, when good men something, that saying, that was me, that I wouldn't say what I need to be saying. And part of the problem in swimming is a lot of times people don't speak up. And a lot of times people are afraid to speak the truth. And I was one of those persons. And sometimes just by not doing something, you are part of the problem, you are guilty. And that's what we have to do in swimming. We really have to stand up. Right is right and wrong is wrong, and that's the long and short.
Yeah, and it leads perfectly into my next question. I mean, you said persons are often apprehensive about making that step, right? And as you mentioned, we need volunteers in swimming. Can't afford to hire persons for the day, right? Why do you think persons in the fraternity are so apprehensive about swimming?
I could speak for myself. I mean, because I have gone in and come back out, gone in and come back out. Sometimes it's personal goals you may have to achieve. Sometimes, I mean, you're just tired. But to be honest, I think one of the biggest things is people don't want their names slandered and scandalized. I mean, there are people who, I mean, want to give or may think about surfing, but it's the risk of having a name in the papers, and you have a professional life and a family life to go after. It's sometimes it's not worth it. And, the politics of the association sometimes could get pretty nasty, and it can have an effect on your mental health. So you as an individual have to know that, listen, you are going into an environment right now which I will define as toxic, and you have to really have that strength of character and that mental strength and be able to be willing to go in and confront it head on, because it's not an easy thing. Parents, officials, whatever it is, everybody is looking at you, and it is difficult to serve, to be a serving member of the association.
You need to bulletproof your mind, though.
A little bit, yeah.
You have served and survived. I think, well, for the most part, you've survived, right? I think under 4 presidents, right?
Yes, sir. Wilfred S. Gregory Collymore, Wendell Lying, and Lindsay Gillett.
All right. If you had to talk about your most memorable tenure, and if you had to elaborate on why so.
Unfortunately, still remaining my most memorable experience in Trinidad and Tobago is CCCAN 2017. And it was memorable for different reasons, but CCCAN 2017, I think, was Trinidad and Tobago's opportunity to shine on the world stage. And I would say that I believe in the running of the events itself, the swim meet, the water polo competition. It was run, I would say, well, right? It was run well. People had a good experience, but there were some problems in the background. We had logistical issues. And the greatest thing was the politics of the situation. I mean, Trinidad and Tobago, like it or not, was in the middle of 3 sets of politics, right? We were dealing with the CCCAN politics, we were dealing with our national politics, and then we were also dealing with the fact that we had logistical issues. So there was all different things going on at the same time. I saw during CCCAN, I thought that Trinidad and Tobago, and when I talk about Trinidad and Tobago, I'm not talking about the citizenry, I'm talking about the swimming fraternity. There are persons who did not come and support the event. I have to say, I know this is probably belated, but Amanda Milana and Brian Wickham, who stayed on as coach and manager, and they really stuck it out in a situation where it was very easy to quit. And I wouldn't lie, after CCCAN, I tried to quit the executive as well. That didn't happen. right? But it was a memorable one still, because even I think CCCAN was I will say CCCAN was a financial disaster, but the event was not a disaster. It was a financial disaster for many reasons, because, I mean, as a part of the team, we didn't manage it as we should. We did not have the support from the swimming fraternity in total. We were fighting 3 different wars, as I said, inside of CCCAN, and it showed me the best and the worst of Trinidad and Tobago.
Nice. All right. And I'm going to wrap up. It's almost 10 o'clock, right? Yeah. And we're wrapping up this season as well, right? So, I mean...
one more to go.
No. But as I say, we commented, right? And I know this vision is something that you had played on some time back, but only recently you really stood steady and decided to go with it. You've had a few technical difficulties and issues with the runnings, right? But how would you describe your experience so far, and how do you see this platform? I mean, you know the vision for it and you've expressed it to persons, viewers. What do you see it going from here?
I mean, it has been a great experience. Honestly, during especially earlier part of the pandemic, it took a serious toll on me and my mental health. This was a medium I found to give back to the community, and actually, more importantly than give to the community, to do something for myself. Because if anybody know, and when I tell people this, if I don't like sitting, well, I didn't like sitting in front of the camera, and it took me about 3 or 4 weeks just to start the show to build the confidence deeper into it. So I saw growth in myself. I was able to meet a lot of people, a lot of the flashback freestyles who contributed so much to Trinidad and Tobago. I was able to learn a lot, gain different perspectives. It was so good to see, you know, when parents call you now, they don't just call about issues, but the conversation has changed. I've been saying that a while. The conversation is changing, at least with me. Probably, I don't know if I tell them okay or something, but I've seen, I mean, we want to take time off now to really relook at our 2021 episodes and take feedback from people, re-engineer ourselves, and see how we can create this into a product that continues to bring the fraternity together. It has been able to bring back different generations, link different people, and hopefully these people who are watching this show also would, you know, find a way to give back to swimming. And as I say, give back to swimming, there's probably a cheap plug at this point in time, but remember, we have our goggles and giggles coming up. And I hope that's our fundraiser for the people who work in the aquatic fraternity. They learn to swim, instructors, the lifeguards, the coaches. So, I mean, hopefully this program will inspire you too, to assist those who, for the past 5 going on 6 months, have been without an income. So, I mean, Chlorine Callaloo, as I said in a previous interview, when somebody wanted to cancel 2020, I don't want to. I see Chlorine Callaloo as a shining light in the aquatic fraternity right now.
A platform. It only go up from here.
Yes, sir.
Right. How do you see aquatics and the possibility of like a haircut post-COVID?
Well, I'm not cutting my hair and my beard until they open the pools. I said that before. Barbers are expensive. And if I cut my, you know, Cindy just say if she cooks, there'll be a lawsuit. I will have myself if I cut my hair. But I think facilities, etc., we need to look at their arrangements and try to. The WHO actually said they do not recommend lockdowns. That is an extreme measure. So we as facilities have to look to see how we can live with COVID. I mean, the association needs to communicate with its members and see what was the way forward. We are clueless as to what is going on next year. Our athletes haven't swum for months. We don't know what is happening if we're going to have peripheral. There's not that engagement in that kind of conversation. We need that. Right? I think these past few months were an ideal opportunity and probably now a missed opportunity to put certain things in place in the fraternity, because I mean, we had the constitution that was there and we could have used this opportunity to work on it, but that didn't happen. Post-COVID, I think we will have to get our heads together. The stakeholders in the sport have to get together, because as pools most clubs don't run pools, so we need to engage all the different stakeholders in aquatics and to get together to see what's the best way forward.
And that would kind of answer my next question, where, I mean, we all know it's not going to be the same, right? And there are strict guidelines. But I want to find out, how do you see yourself and your company surviving or serving swimming in the future?
Well, we will continue doing what we're doing. We're hoping for, the only surge we want to get is a surge of learn to swim swimmers, not a COVID surge, but a managed surge. I think swimming, learn to swim will have a future. People want to learn to swim. I'm more concerned actually about the competitive swimming aspect of it, because I don't know where kids and athletes' mental state are. I don't know what work they have been doing. You may find there may be a high drop-off rate because you don't know who has put on weight, where, and and how motivated the athletes are going to be. And I don't envy being a coach at this point in time to try to bring back these athletes, but I see our company continue to serve in the learn to swim. And me, I mean, Chlorine Callaloo has opened up my mind a little bit. I have always tried to help how I can. Like it or not, I'm always going to be involved in swimming once I'm alive. And I will have to continue to try to do my part to make swimming a better place. I can't commit to anything as in being a part of ASAT in a true sense. I can't commit, but I've chosen my words very carefully right now, but I can't commit. But I am committed to swimming in Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, and I mean, I was just going to give a wrap up, but I saw a comment here. Thank you, Jason, for all that you have done for TNT Swimming, your candor of advice and optimism for the future. And I mean, this program brings hope, it brings knowledge, it brings advice, right? And I think it brings a way forward for us. We can't directly change certain things, but I mean, if you get enough voices, as you have been doing behind it, you could start a revolution, so to speak, right? Your passion doesn't go unnoticed at all, right? Keep up the good work, and pleasant night, everyone. I don't know if you have anything you would like to say in closing your program.
I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, thank everybody for their support over the last few episodes. We hope we could continue to inspire some hope. I say, hey, Philippa Hope, come out there and say hope. I hope we could continue to inspire hope through the next, we have one more episode to go. And Sunday, the 25th of October, we're going to send out some things during the course of this week about how you could be a part of it. And let's come together and do something positive for those in aquatics.
All right.
That's it.
Everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night, and thank you for tuning in. Thanks to all the previous guests. Have a good night.